makes a great leader? Think of the best leader you've ever had. What makes them so memorable to you? What did they do for you? Did they believe in you before you even believed in yourself? Did they take a chance on you when you weren't ready yet? Did they trust you even when you hadn't earned their trust? Did they have your back even at personal risk to themselves? Want to know why they did it? Then you're at the right place. In this podcast, we dig into the why through deeply personal stories of great leaders who are powered by their purpose, anchored in their authenticity, and connect who they are to how they lead in good times and bad, at crossroads and crises, who challenge status quo and existing paradigms and do different things differently. It will make you wonder, what would you do if you faced a similar challenge? Join us in reimagining the leadership of the future with me, your host, Shahana Banerjee, CEO of Just Human Leadership Advisors. George Bernard Shaw once said, "The single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place." In this episode, we deconstruct communication, when it works, when it breaks down, and dig into some real-life scenarios with Molly Tschang, founder and CEO of Abella Consulting and author of Say It Skillfully with Marshall Goldsmith. She's on a mission to ignite human potential by helping people find their voice and say it skillfully. Welcome, Molly. So excited to have you on our podcast.
Delightful to be with you.
I've been looking forward to this. Let's dive right in. Tell us your story, Molly, the people, the influences, and experiences that have shaped you into who you are.
Well, it's a great privilege to have a chance to share this. I had a really great childhood. I mean, living in upstate New York in Rochester, two great sisters, amazing parents who are still with us, and my idols. They were really pioneering spirits. So they left their homelands. My mom left Hong Kong at age 16, had never boiled water, had
Wow.
never not slept in her own bed, and decided she was going to become a nurse in England. So you can imagine my grandmother's like, right, honey, that's going to go really well because I did not raise you to be independent. But sure enough, my mom goes, becomes an amazing certified midwife. My dad is from the mainland of China, but grew up in Malaysia, and he came off the boat to Oregon State University. And, I think both of them were just really bright spirits. And they're just kind of naturally good people. So I think people are attracted to helping them, if that makes sense. So I feel very, very lucky. But we grew up and there was one Black family, one Korean family, and one Chinese family, us, in my elementary school. I remember just really always wanting to fit in and not feeling necessarily bad about myself. But at one point, my parents came to school and they were going to teach kids about using chopsticks or what have you, which of course is so fabulous, right? Because kids do.
Yeah.
And I was so mortified. I was like, mortified. Oh my God, we don't. So I think, that's just part, of course, I wouldn't have it any other way now, knowing who I am and where I'm from. But as a kid, that was really crazy. My dad was an engineer, super rocket scientist guy, a PhD, but we weren't talking about like business or anything like that at our table. That was not normal. So I don't know what got into me, but I was good at math. I loved math and I liked chemistry. And so I'm like, I'll be a chemical engineer. And I ended up going to Cornell. College was a huge fun time for me. I was back at campus for a reunion and I let people know. I said, in the end of my freshman semester, I was transferring out. I'm like, this is too hard. I was so traumatized. I thought I'm way too stupid for this. I can't do it. And I was going to go to University of Toronto. And then I ended up rushing a sorority and met all these great people and it changed my life forever. But, it was, people are like, what? I said, yes, I was really overwhelmed. And I'll tell you what was overwhelming. In my own mind, Shahana, I had to learn everything. Like I had to know everything. It's a lot to learn everything, right? That's pretty much, you're never going to learn everything. I had accepted a job at Chevron, which was a, big deal. And I was going to go into chemical engineering. Yay. 30 days before we graduate. 30 days. And all at that time, the engineers all had like 7 job offers. We were done. So I get this call from IBM. I'm living on the 3rd floor of a bar with 10 women, and no one answers the phone. So just the fact that someone answered the phone just meant this was meant to be. And they're like, hello, is Molly Tschang there? I'm like, this is she. And it's IBM. I'm like, great. We're wondering, would you like to talk to us? I mean, this is like May 1st, right? I mean, people are done. And I said, well, I have accepted a job offer, but I'd be happy to chat with you, which is a very skillful moment, I think, for a
Mm.
21-year-old. I felt like I handled that well. And then they're like, can you be in Armonk in 2 days? I'm like, yeah, I can be in Armonk in 2 days. So I just remember sitting on the corporate offices of the big IBM facility, gorgeous stone, this woman's coiffed hair is perfect. She's got pearls on. I don't know what she said. Okay, she's looking amazing. And I'm like, this is pretty cool, whatever this is. And so I get back, and again, I got this offer to join them on the West Coast. Don't ask me why I was going to go to the West Coast, but it was for 2/3 of the salary. I did
Wow.
not flinch. I did not flinch on it. That's a lot. Okay.
Yeah,
So I did
yeah.
not flinch. I think my thought process in the moment was just like, after 2 years of IBM, I'll probably be more valuable than 2 years of Chevron. It turned out that the oil industry kind of went through a big downturn. I'm not at heart a big company gal, so I think it's great that I was there for maybe three some years. But I think my irreverence probably gets the better of me, and I just felt like I wanted to leave. I would have benefited for sure staying, but I ended up going to business school, which was also amazing. And after that, I ended up going out into management consulting. So I have to say that was super fun to be, in a new class with young people, and you're diving into companies and figuring out who knows what and given an assignment. And I ended up going to a high growth company called US Filter. I fly to Palm Desert. I interview with Dick Heckman, who sadly has passed, but he was consolidating the water treatment business. He's a real visionary, meaning there was not one big water company. And so, big mission, amazing team running around the world, literally buying companies and integrating them. Like, what young person gets to do that? I mean, super
Right.
fun. And I am definitely a mission-driven person. And I think I could go overboard. I probably worked 4 years straight. And because I felt very involved, not because anyone was had a gun to my head. And when you do that, you can definitely burn out. I did feel a bit out of control in the sense that I was just so all over the place. I finally had to call it a day, and I left and ended up taking a bit of a sabbatical. For just realized this. I was at a dinner, and someone was talking about this job in marketing, and it was a marketing for a professional cooking school. I'm
Mm-hmm.
a huge home cook, right? So I'm like, well, if you're not going to apply for that job, can I apply for that job? And so I ended up working at a professional cooking school for a year, which was
Wow.
amazing, amazing. So here's my funniest story there is the students, and there were a lot of adult learners. So it's a program that
Right.
the career changers, and they cook foie gras every day. And so I think for the first 6 weeks, I gained a pound a week, which for a lot of folks out there maybe doesn't seem like a big deal. But for me, my weight's very steady. So at the end of 6 weeks, I was like, no more foie gras. And to this day, when I go to a restaurant, people are like, oh, this amazing, French delicacy. I'm like, it's okay. I've had enough of that.
I've had enough for a lifetime.
But then I took some time off. I did a reinvention. I really needed, Shahana, to get to know myself. I felt very sort of seeing behaviors in myself that didn't feel like they were really me. I got a little
Right.
witchy or what have you. And you just kind of have to confront the fact that, this wasn't really the nicest person that I really wanted to be. And so I did this career seminar series that Harvard packaged in a book. I had a little binder. I was doing the whole thing. And I ended up, networking and deciding I was going to go back out west. And I had my hearts set on the Cisco Systems Company, which was fairly early. And so I found myself into their corporate business development group because I'd integrated all these companies, and they were on the verge of kind of getting into a big acquisition. Uh,
Right.
Credit to John Chambers at the time, it was change the way the world works, lives, plays, and learns. And we felt that that's what we were doing. So game on about that. And it's just, again, extraordinary people I had a chance to work with. I just had the most amazing experiences there, including running a nonprofit. And Cisco had done a little startup nonprofit. Microsoft was also kind of a co-founder of this, and it was a Net Hope. So it was an
Mm,
international consortium of the big
right.
NGOs in the world. Because obviously, when there's a big tsunami or what have you, we shouldn't have every NGO doing their own technology infrastructure. They should be working together, right? So
Right.
that ability to for Cisco and Microsoft to stand up and really show a way forward that where they could collaborate for the greater good. And that was like 18 months of the best time of my life. It was so moving. Along the way, I had someone who I respected, Wendy Hill at the company. She had left, but she had gone through this executive coaching program, which was not what I was trying to go for, but she said, you'll like this program. And I took this program and I learned this very simple framework about this relationship systems intelligence, where we're all on the same team or a couple or on this Zoom, but we're having a different experience of it. And that
Mm-hmm.
ability to empathetically understand what it's like for each other, to
Right.
actually walk in each other's shoes is fundamental to collaboration, to powerful group identity, to sustaining success. And so when I'm going through this program, I'm thinking this is what is missing in every company anywhere in the world is people really connecting as people.
Yeah.
So I ended up coaching the senior management teams on the side because we'd have these offsites that I thought for the most part weren't as useful as they could be. And then in 2014, I decided to go off on my own because I knew at my heart, I knew that I really wanted to help senior teams develop that powerful chemistry to lead together, to
Mm.
to commit to each other's success. I call it win as one. So that's what led me to do my own consultancy. And I came out, I had Cisco as an anchor client, which was a blessing. But then I sat out to kind of be strategic and say, what do I want to do with this? And I
Mhm.
ended up targeting private equity firms. And then I'm cruising along fine. I end up meeting Marshall Goldsmith, who is just my idol and honorary father, and he invites me to this very elite coaching club. And the most important thing I've learned from Marshall is how to unconditionally offer help. If we all were helping each other, I mean, the world would be better.
Mm.
100%. So that's why the book came out. I have the Say It Skillfully program. We can go into that later, but I started that totally on accident. I'm very blessed. Very, very, very blessed.
So you started your Say It Skillfully videos way before I think bite-sized learning or this whole real stuff became part of our everyday life. I remember listening to them years ago and being completely fascinated at how succinctly you're able to communicate something so powerful in like a minute or a minute and a half, right? So it was always really interesting. So I'd love to know more about how did it all start? Take us back to the first video. What happened?
I am a private person. Really, I'm not a big oversharer. I don't even know what started it, but the idea of shooting a video where a junior person, role playing, where a junior person
Yeah.
speak up in a room full of management, which is, of course, the scariest thing on the planet to do.
Scariest thing,
Right. And
absolutely.
so I filmed this thing. I mean, it looks ridiculous, right? And I film it and I'm thinking like 10 people are going to watch this. But
Yeah.
because of that whole group, it ended up ultimately like 36,000 people watched that video. And
Wow.
I was so moved by people's comments. And what I saw, frankly, was a real unmet need, which is that people don't want to be a mute at work. They do
Yeah.
actually want to speak up. They don't know how. And if you don't know how, even if it's this psychological safe space, even if you have that, if you don't know how, you're still not going to say it.
True.
And
So
so the
true.
whole epiphany, think about this, of all the things that we've learned in school, I mean, our communication and how we use our voices, that is our number one success factor in
Yep.
life. Forget
Yeah.
work. Nobody teaches us. There's
Yep.
no, so I was like, this is like God, this cannot be. And so
Yeah.
again, I didn't speak English until I was 5, right? I got straight
Yeah.
C's in the first grade. So for me, I remember what it was like to just feel bad, to not be able to communicate well. It just made me feel bad about me, right? And then, by the way, you
Yeah.
can't contribute. I mean, there's all sorts of bad things that happen from that.
Yeah.
So,
Like you want to say something, but the words are not there. You're not able to find the words for it.
yeah, and
That's
there's no
hard. That's
learning.
really
There's
hard.
no learning. It took over my life. I'm telling you, in an instant. So you're on social media commenting. I mean, it's just, it's a ton of work, people. So
Yeah.
it's just, so I'm on there and then I'm producing a new video every week. I'm kind of figuring out what the heck I'm doing it because obviously I have no idea what I'm doing, right? So I'm sort of making it up as I go. And then but having worked for so many years, I mean, let's face it, the work itself is not that hard. It's all the annoying people that we have to deal with. That is the hard part of work, right? I mean, come on. That is the part that holds us back. And
Only they
so
would do it our way.
if only they would do it, or if they would just shut up and listen to me, then it would be fine, right? And so I mean, I think I did 50 videos. Randall Librero at Voice America, which is the oldest internet podcasting radio show place calls me up and he's like, you're onto something here. Would you like your own radio show?
Oh, wow.
Yes, yes, yes,
That's
yes.
pretty cool.
So that's super cool. Of course, I have no idea what that means, and I'm all in. I'm like, here's my naive take. And yeah, 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 totally. I totally want to have my own radio show. Like, whatever, right? And that was every week. I'm telling you, every week. It was just a crazy amount of work. So I started having callers call in, and I'm really struggling with this colleague at work, and I don't know how to handle it. So we would real time, like coaching session,
Ah,
and people would listen. I would do
oh,
maybe
that's
three
cool.
callers. So that's
Yeah.
how it started. And then was in this great group, so I had the access to these really amazing people. And so I started featuring special guests who would come on. And to your point, it wasn't coming on talking about their work. I wanted to hear about their life journeys, particularly the downs, the ups
Right.
and the downs,
Yeah.
because ups are all the stuff that's on social media because everyone is beautiful and thin and
Sure.
fit. But, in real life, that's not what happens. That gift of having a different guest and hearing their journey, and I was able to reverse engineer this whole Say It Skillfully sort of construct that I have now from those experiences. So it was all based on
Mhm.
the reality of
Wow.
people communicate. Yes, it was, I mean, I wouldn't do it again, but I mean, I wouldn't have to go back and do it again, but I'm glad I did it. It really helped open my eyes. It's very humbling to really hear
Yeah.
what people have gone through in
Yeah.
life that you just would never know unless you really ask. So it's helped encourage me to ask, um, and to know that behind every single person there is a really amazing story.
Yeah. And you certainly have thousands of people who follow you, read your, posts, but also watch your videos and comment on it. What do you think has been the impact of Say It Skillfully, the videos, and now, of course, the book as well on people? And could you maybe think of a couple of stories of impact that you can share with us?
Yeah, so many. So this is what's most moving for me because I appreciated being very unskillful, being a very poor communicator, and the downsides of that, and not being able to advocate for myself, not being able to see other people advocate for themselves. The pain of all that was very
Yeah.
real for me. So when I, you know, meet people who watch the video and they're like, it's really not that hard.
Yeah.
It's not that hard. I did a pilot program of my course. It's at Morgan Stanley, and people were like, it's not actually the exact words or even exactly how you say it. If you come across with that energy, that
Yeah.
intention of wanting to help someone, like if they really viscerally feel, Shahana wants to help me. Maybe she's
Yeah.
fumbling through her words, but I know her
Yeah.
intention is pure, then things go well,
Yeah. And
right?
it is fascinating that communication is so much beyond words, right? Your energy speaks for itself, your body language speaks for itself, how the intention, whether you think it is or not, it definitely flows through, it bleeds through in how you communicate. Your emotions bleed through in how you communicate. And so it's so crucial to figure out that A, are you even in the same conversation sometimes, right? And, certainly what else is coming into your conversation that may be taking away or adding to the conversation itself. So that is really cool. Any other story of impact do you want to
Well,
share?
yeah, so I mean, the big part of this is that 80% of effective communication starts within because it's
Yeah.
very, that Shahana, she doesn't get it. She isn't open to hearing it. We have a thousand excuses for all these other people around us who need to be fixed. And I would ask people to go look in the mirror and think about, hey, how are you contributing? And I had a great gal on the show, and she was clearly frustrated. Well, I don't think my manager is as supportive, and I don't think she thinks, I'm very confident. So we talk it through. And at one point, she just kind of pauses,
Mm.
and she's like, how can I expect my manager to think I'm confident and competent if I don't show up as confident and competent? I mean, it was just, I mean, I
Wow.
say that
That's
like
an
it's so obvious,
epiphany.
but she was, you could tell viscerally, she was like, oh my God, I'm
Yeah.
showing up as a little insecure, worried that she doesn't think I'm good enough. There's a lot of gray in it, but at the same time, if you really are trying to do what's right, if you're trying to go in with something that's going to serve the team, serve another person, help the greater good, and be part of that, that's going to go well. Right.
Yeah.
But you have to be able to connect the dots. And so I think a lot of folks, oh, I'm really worried about this. I'm really worried about that. I said, whenever you've got that, I call it in the bubble,
Yeah.
that's a cue for transparency.
Yeah.
Transparency is, hey, I don't want you to think I'm not a team player. I don't
Yeah.
want you to think I'm against change. Here's what I want to offer, and here's why. And
Yeah.
just simple constructs to help people realize that we own it. So if you have a great idea, or you
Yeah.
think that the team's going off a cliff with this decision, if you don't say something, you are the problem.
Yeah.
And that, to be honest, has been what I have found is the biggest driver for change.
The story you shared really resonates with me. As a coach, I see it a lot. We are in a situation, but we don't really see the situation for what it is because we are in the thick of it, right? We are on the ground floor fighting the battles. So it's hard to take that moment, take that pause, have a balcony moment and reflect. Say somebody's been laid off, right? They're now looking for another job. But sometimes that emotional toll of being laid off, if it's not dealt with, right, it bleeds through in the conversation with your new employer or prospective employer. And that then prevents them from sometimes landing another job. And so it's almost like how do you address some of what's going on, some of the baggage that you have, the pent up
Yeah.
emotions that are there in order to bring your best self forward that is truly attractive for a potential new employer. And so many different examples of the same thing, but you're right. I mean, it completely resonates with me.
Yeah, I'd like to build on that one. Think about your narrative. And if people were to ask, tell
Yes.
me about X, Y, or Z. I was there
Yes.
for a bunch of years. They had a layoff. I was caught up in that. I have to say, I learned a ton. The people were amazing. Here's some growth areas that came out of that for me. But you're neutral. You're embracing what happened. Your ability to feel whole with that
Yeah.
in the right way will help someone realize, hey, this person can go through the downs and they can come out the other end in a good way.
Right.
It's all about practice. So talk into your phone a few times when someone asks you, so tell me about this
Yeah.
situation here. What prompted you to go? Just say it, right? Get out there so that you feel comfortable with the narrative that you want to put out there.
Yeah. Sometimes I think people think that because they can think it, they can say it, right? And so the advice that you're giving, it doesn't mean that, just because you can think of something and, it makes sense in your head, that it comes out exactly like that when you're saying it to a prospective employer. You've got to say it a few times, record it, figure out what would you keep the same, what would you do differently, what would you try, and add maybe what's missing, right? And then figure out what's the right message finally at the
Yeah.
end of a few tries rather than just go with your instinct and, perhaps may not make the impression that you really want to make.
If you're thinking about sharing something, why are you sharing that? Are you sharing that to help the greater good,
Yeah.
to spur greater cognitive thinking, to help someone to grow? Those are all legit. If you're speaking so that you look smart, or you're trying to make someone else look stupid, or whatever, that's not really serving the greater good, might
Yeah.
want to think twice about it. And I think a lot of the systems that we're in are favoring the people who are right, favor the people who talk more. So then more people think they should talk more and be right. And it just
Yeah.
kind of is a race to the bottom.
It's just
And
noise pollution.
it's a noise pollution situation.
This podcast is brought to you by Just Human Leadership Advisors. We specialize in executive coaching and a broad range of human capital solutions. To learn more, visit us at justhuman.io. And now, back to the podcast. Helping people find their voice seems really important to you, almost like a calling, right? And I certainly see the theme, whether it's in your old Say It Skillfully videos, in your podcast, and now in your book. Why is it so important for you?
Fundamentally, your communication is how other people experience you. Your words and how you say them is you. And so, if we want to come across as confident, of caring, of a leader, of an innovator, that's all reflected in what we say and how we say it. And obviously, your actions have to back that up. It can't all be air, right? It just took me far too long to appreciate how game changing this skill is. And when I say game changing, in the sense of being able to be true to myself, contribute to my fullest, which is all I want to do at work. I just want to do the best work I can and empower others to do the same. So you get this double benefit, right? When you're skillful in bringing out and sharing and creating space for others so that they can do the same, when you say it skillfully, performance improves and everyone wins.
So let's talk a bit about your new book, Say It Skillfully. So first, congratulations. You've co-authored a book with Marshall Goldsmith. How many people can say that in the world? So that's pretty awesome. So
Yes.
in the book, one thing that really struck me is that you talk about the me, you, we framework, right? And that's so simple and yet so powerful. So I'd love for you to walk us through the framework.
I created this because I really felt this is something that everybody could use. Since everyone's unique, you're unique, I'm unique. We can't all necessarily say it exactly the same way and have it work, but you can take this three-part framework and have it work for you, right? So at the core, as I mentioned, effective communication is 80% within. So what's going on for me? And first of that's just getting in good relationship with myself, like emotionally. Let's say, you're in this meeting, it's like a heated battle, and you come out of it, you're super mad, you're angry, and you're legitimately angry. Okay, got it. So you have a chance. Like, I'm going to go to this next meeting. Do I want to show up all huffy puffy and red faced and like angry? Because letting go of negative emotions and being in good relationship with yourself is essential to best serve the work. So, are you about your ego or are you about your work? That's not easy to be able to kind of decompress,
Sure.
to step back, to haul it, put it in, because there can be something that was legitimately ticked you off and you're off, and the ability to hone it back in is key because you can't be in service to others if you're kind of frustrated and like, battling yourself. Part of that involves understanding my intention with the conversation I want to have. Like, what do I want to have happen? And I mean, many people are like, my boss, I have to have a conversation with my boss. I'm like, okay, what do you want to have happen? And they look at me and like, well, you do have a goal. Like, what are you just going to go in there and start talking? Like, what do you want to have happen in a very concrete way? And that might be, I want to hear what the other person's point of view is. I want the person to know that I think that this is not going the right, whatever it is. But being clear on that is important because you have to set up your energy to show up in a way that best serves that goal.
Right.
Once you're grounded with yourself, the you is let me put myself in the other person's shoes. Let me
Yeah.
empathize with what's going on, what could be going on for that person. And not that you're supposed to have a crystal ball and know, but your ability to have the other person realize that I'm trying to understand what
Yeah.
it's like for you. I may not.
The empathy part. Yeah.
It's the empathy part. So
Mhm.
that's exactly right. And because empathy is key to connection, right? And Harry Kramer's great CEO. Harry's like, if I can't relate, if I can't connect to someone, I'm never going to influence them. And if I can't
Right.
influence, I have no shot at leading.
Mm.
Zero. So this whole idea of connecting, and I say that as human beings. And the third is the we, which is the who are we together? Like I
Yeah.
mentioned, you're the same team, you're a husband wife couple. You were on the same Zoom, but having a different experience of it. And so just being aware that, wow, people are having a different experience than I am. And
Yeah.
empathetically understanding what it's like for each other. This is the walking in each other's shoes is so fundamental, right? To the effective collaboration, the powerful group identity, and how we sustain success. And that's hallmark of the highest performing teams. I've said to folks that I've worked with, I said, as a leadership team, what are the three words you want the other folks in the company to be saying about you? If I ask them, hey, tell me about the leadership team, what comes to mind? There's a sense of like, who are we together? And is that
Mm.
because if you know how you want to be perceived, then your words and your actions reinforce that or not. What is it that you want people to think of? What brand loosely do you want? And
Yeah.
just make sure that your words and your actions telegraph that because that's how the reputation is made. I have a funny story because at once I was interviewing for a job at Cisco and talking to a very senior person who was asking me some questions about what I wanted to do. And I thought I was being super flexible, showing interest in multiple areas. I'm thinking this is going great. Well, push comes to shove. After the fact, I hear this Molly doesn't seem so committed. And I'm like, dagger in the heart. Not committed? What do you mean? I'm totally committed, right?
I'm
However,
so flexible, it should tell you I'm committed, but
so
no.
this is the thing is that so for that other individual, which is totally fair, that came across to that person is not committed. So you're like, well, what do I do with that? So what you want to do is be aware that how you're speaking, what you're saying could land differently. And
Yeah.
to be able to say, you've asked me, I'm interested in a lot of different areas, but I hope that you see how committed I am to the organization.
Yeah.
So we want to take ownership for understanding. Hey, I've said a lot. Tell me what you're hearing. Do you have any concerns? Is there anything that you'd like me to
Yeah.
further develop? Going back and forth to confirm understanding is everyone's job. It's everyone's
Yeah.
job. So I want to offer that. I think especially for leaders, oftentimes, I mean, I've had many people come on the show about this. The leader says something, it's not very clear. Okay. It's just not clear. They think they've been crystal clear.
Yes.
People and the people can tell that they think they've been crystal clear, which makes it even more scary to ask, but it is not exactly crystal clear.
Mm.
And so that ability to say, I see how passionate you are. I'm all in to make this work. I am not exactly following you. Could you repeat that in a different way? Or let me share what I've heard. Help me if I've got that right, or if I haven't. So I think it's really on all sides to be able to confirm
Yeah.
understanding. Because if you don't have, this is this accurate shared reality I talk about in the book. If you don't have an accurate shared reality, you will not make the best decisions, execute with
Yeah.
speed, and get to your greatest outcomes. The end, right? And
Yeah.
that to me is the number one thing holding organizations back.
Yeah. Typically, at this point in the podcast, we do a rapid fire round. But in your honor and in the honor of Say It Skillfully, we call this section What Would Molly Say? So, what we're going to do is we'll have a couple of scenarios or a few scenarios to walk through. And then I'd love for you to tell our listeners what maybe you would do differently and how would you say it skillfully as a means of inspiring them, right? Okay, ready?
Ready.
Okay. So the first scenario is Liz is frustrated. She's been waiting for a promotion for 5 years now, but it hasn't happened yet. She's been ruminating over this for months and, trying to figure out what to do about it. She decides she's going to confront her boss. So she's planning to walk up to her boss and say, I should have been promoted 2 years ago. Ken and Debbie have already got promoted, but not me. This is not okay. What are you planning to do about it? So, Molly, what should Liz do? Help her out, please.
Okay, well, fortunately, Liz is only thinking about doing this, and Liz actually hasn't done it. So we can
Right.
save the day on this. So, my first thing is, hey, Liz, hey, I get the frustration.
Mm-hmm.
You feel it's been an injustice. For
Yeah.
whatever reasons, you feel like you've been cast aside. Crummy feeling. Totally get it. And I honor that that's a horrible feeling. You have a decision. Do you want to let that pollute how you go forward? Is that how you want people to think about you? Or are you going to like wipe the slate clean and put your best foot forward to be able to hopefully open up a conversation that's going to get you somewhere? And that's I want to tell folks that's a choice. You can tell me, you know what? I just want her to know that she screwed up and she's a jerk face. Okay. That's, like that's your prerogative. Molly's fine. I'm fine. But if you want to do that, you just need to go in that is sort of a nuclear option to go in and kind of make someone else super bad.
Yeah.
Um, I think chances are sort of high that you don't have the full view on what other people have done in their performance and how they're promoted. So I think appreciating and assuming some positive intent, which might be, it might seem like we're completely peers and it might seem that my performance is exactly the same, but obviously I'm missing something because
Mhm.
here I am and there they are. And so I think that that is something for an individual to just come to grips with themselves.
Yeah.
The challenge is, especially if it's been a while, you just kind of get more and more bitter each year,
Yes.
which makes it worse and worse and worse. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you've really got to zen it out. So let's just say you've zened it out. You've meditated for half an hour. You're feeling really great. And you go in and you say, what do you want to have happen? Right. So if I say, Liz, what do you want to have happen? Well, I want to get promoted. Okay. Well, that's sort of really about you, which is great. But so talk more about the organization. Like, what is the win-win here? Right. And so I want to be able to have more influence. I can manage people. I can show how internal people can be promoted instead of all these external people being hired
Right.
and promoted. And I feel that if I have this promotion, I'll be able to lead teams and have even greater impact. But you have to have something that serves the whole. The culture of the company being one of a meritocracy, that people, put their time in and they produce the results. And when they do that, we really reward people and continue to give them opportunities to perform and grow. That has been my assumption of the culture since I've been here. This is to Liz's boss, right? And so I would love to feel like I'm living that. And, I will say I'm a bit disappointed because I feel like there's something I must be missing about the ability to kind of have them upward mobility, not for the sake of it, but because I really want to be able to have a broader impact. So you
Mm,
create a win-win. So hey, so what I want to just be really open-hearted is I'd really love to understand, what how you're seeing me perform now. What can I be doing to get
mm,
myself in a position where you're thrilled to be promoting me? Because to me it means a lot. I work really hard, I care a lot, and I want to feel like it's going somewhere. So I really appreciate your thoughts. So you open up a dialogue
yeah,
because obviously there's something going down with your performance. Now,
yeah,
lots of times places, which I get, are not forthright with the things that aren't going so well. Everybody talks about them, but they don't talk about them with you.
yeah,
So you need to create a space that says, hey, okay, I know there's things that I need to be working on. Help me out with the things that you see are the most important priorities for me
yeah,
to be growing as a teammate, as a manager, as a whatever, and be
yeah,
open. So enroll your leader in this
yeah.
journey
In
of
this journey.
in the journey that as you becoming more and more impactful, it makes them look good, helps you do
Yeah,
work, whatever it
yeah,
is that really
yeah.
supports the whole, right?
Such great advice. And I think two things definitely stand out very, very clearly among all the great advice. One is that you may have pent up emotion, you may have pent up baggage, but you're at a crossroads. You've got to figure out, is it more important to you to lean into that emotion and just be able to express it? Or is it more important to you to move towards your goal, which is to get promoted? And you can't have both, is the what I'm hearing you say very clearly. You've got to choose one path. You're not going to have both. And so if you're choosing to go down the path of moving towards your goal, then you've got to set aside your baggage for a minute to be able to do that and approach it from a neutral stance. Okay, this was so good. Let's go to another one. Right? So Priya has to give really tough feedback to a high potential team member. She's been dreading it and keeps postponing it, keeps avoiding it, and she's worried that this talented team member is just going to leave, right? So in her next one on one, she spends 85% of her time saying wonderful things about the team member. And then just as they're about to wrap up, she slips in the tough feedback almost apologetically. So help her out, Molly. What should Priya do?
Oh my God, Priya, a lot of compassion for you, honey. Okay, so I hear this kind of thing a lot. People are worried about the feedback. And so this is where I'm going to tell people we have to grow up. Okay, here is the deal. Whether you're the manager, direct manager, or just giving a colleague feedback, here is an opportunity to help someone to grow.
Right.
So for Priya, right, she got this feedback. She's like, oh, they might leave. I say, well, okay, if they're going to leave because you're giving them feedback to grow and be better, like, do you want them on the team? Really? Like, I don't know. I wouldn't want her on the team.
Yeah.
So you're not. So part of that also is how you set it up. When you first have employees and you have a team, it's like one of the things everyone needs to know is I am accountable for helping you grow, for helping you be your very best. Because if you're your very best, we as a team are going to perform our best. We're going to do our best for the company. That's a win. In order for me to do that, I'm going to be very proactive about identifying behaviors, actions, knowledge areas that I think are going to be helpful for you to grow. And we're going to be very clear about that. We're actually going to know what everyone's working on so we all grow together. This is ideal. Okay. So this would be ideal if this was the setup. Oftentimes it's not, but if you have the chance to set that up that way. Now you're coming in saying, okay, hey, you've been on the team with me for the last 6 months. It's a nice time to do a checkpoint. How do you think it's going? Right.
Hmm.
And so you might ask them to rate themselves on a scale of 1 to 10 or 1 to 5 in a few areas, but you're creating conversation. And you want to make sure that you may think that the job needs to be in a certain way, and that's obvious to you what great looks like. If you haven't clarified with the other
Right.
person, and confirmed that they see what you say is like great is great, you got a problem. And that's on you.
Right.
As leader,
Right.
you have got to make that clear, right? And just how you approach it. Lisa, I have this really great opportunity. I saw you presenting the other day, which is so great. And I realized there's some things that I think you can be doing that will really amp up how you perform. What can I be doing to help you succeed in making this shift or whatever the change is?
Yeah.
These should be very constructive, make it happen. And it is founded on this relationship with the other person of them knowing that you're there looking out for their best interest.
Let's do another one, Molly. So, Kyle is really excited about a new idea that he believes can solve a major problem at his company. He's new and he struggles to convey the idea and get buy-in for it. Every time he speaks up in a meeting, there's like everybody who's like talking all over him, and he is, not getting taken seriously in the meeting, even though he has a great idea, but is just not able to find that room to get in. What would you advise him to do?
This is a real doozy because experienced this.
Right.
I use this like the kind of quiets and the talkers, and so t sometimes it's really hard to get a word in edgewise. So it really depends on exactly the situation. I think if it's a meeting which is kind of always a free for all, I think it's worth going to the facilitator and saying, "Hey, I'm noticing. I mean, I love being in the meetings or they're great. Share something that you acknowledge about the meeting and say,
Yeah.
I'm wondering because I am probably not alone in being someone who really finds it difficult to like break in because we have some people who are very, you know,
Passionate.
very passionate about what they are saying and they say a lot of it. And I've noticed that for people like me, we don't really hear anything from them. Pause. Ugh, I know it's this crazy dynamic, blah, blah, blah. So, well, here's the thing. As the facilitator, you're in a pretty unique situation.
Yeah.
I can tell you what would be helpful for me is that, in midway through the call, if we said, hey, time out, we've had some really great ideas out there. I'd like to go around the room for anyone who hasn't yet spoken.
Right.
And I would love to give you a chance to share what's on your mind. Okay. So I think that is a way where you're asking someone to help create a meeting construct that maybe serves the
Yeah.
whole better than the current one.
Yeah.
Now, let's say it's kind of a duke it out kind of thing. There, you might notice who are some of the people who seem to get a lot of airtime, and you might partner with them and say, "Hey, can you do me a
Yes.
favor? You seem to be able to get in there. I have this really great idea. Can you give me some air cover so that I can get in there?"
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the other thing is you can play the game if you feel like it's just a little bit about like the boldest one wins. So if someone says a bold move, oh, Tim, that was so great. Thank you for that great idea. Hey, folks, listen up. I have something I want to share. It may not be right. I think it will really help us be better because of blah, 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 blah. Right? So remember that if that's a bit of the dynamic there, then you got to like amp it up, get in
Yeah.
the game a little bit, show them that you matter. Because once you get going, they're really going to have to raise their voice to talk over you.
Yes.
Now, if you're coming across like this and people can't, I mean, if they can't barely hear you, don't expect a red carpet to roll out. So hopefully those are some ideas that help the
Yeah.
Kyles of the world out there.
Yes, that's a great one. Are you game for one more?
Oh yeah, I love this.
Okay.
My favorite thing.
So Keisha finds it super challenging to work with Bill. They're
Mm.
struggling, right? He steals her ideas, takes credit, is dismissive towards her, and avoids collaborating with her. She knows she's got to speak up for herself, but is dreading doing it and doesn't know how. Can you help her out, Molly?
I think more often than not, we have manufactured in our mind that Bill is this ogre and he does not respect me and he's stealing all my ideas or what have you. If it comes up, say, hey, Bill, it's been like a year. I realize we haven't really had any time together. Could we have a coffee? So just get off site, get a
Yeah.
coffee, right? And change the setting and say, I really want to talk to you about something that really, to be honest with you, I should have sent it earlier. It's on me because it really bothers me. And I want us to be really great teammates.
When you're dealing with a difficult conversation, you're so mired in the present that that's all you can see, right? And you almost have to lift yourself and the other person out of the present to paint either a shared vision or a shared reality, as you often talk about, to be able to almost lift yourself out of the current, to be able to see what success or what good looks like. And then you know that you're inspired and motivated to work towards it together.
Yeah, I think that ability to create the accurate shared reality. Here's the context. Here's what we have in common. Here's what we want to do to create a win-win together. There's a lot of unifying things. And if you focus on the things that unify, if you can
Yeah.
embrace the differences as something that helps us be better rather than something that we fear, that can go a long, long way.
Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your wisdom with our listeners. Such a great conversation, so many insights, so much wisdom. Truly appreciate it, Molly.
Gratitude back at you, Sean. I really, really, really feel privileged to join you. I love your energy and what you're doing for the world and helping people, be who they are. And let's all say what needs to be said in a skillful way. And I am here to help people any way that I can. We've got, I think, a free audiobook, a mini audiobook of the Me, You, We framework that I hope will just get people a jump start. So your listeners can all take advantage
That's
of
awesome.
that.
Thank you so much, Molly.
Thank you for joining us. We'd love to hear from you. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the Mindful Leadership Podcast brought to you by Just Human. We are a growth accelerator for our clients, helping your people and businesses thrive through human-centered, ecosystem-based people solutions. To learn more, visit us at justhuman.io and schedule a 30-minute free call with us.